People are always asking me about recommendations for books, and this is part 2. Part 1, of course, I think is fantastic, so take a look at that. This is not nixing out any of those, but here's a few more that I've read or remembered since then that I loved. And these are mostly actor memoirs. I have a lot of acting books in part 1, and these are more of the memoirs. My name is Barbara Streisand. Fantastic from both an actor's perspective and a director's perspective and a filmmaker's perspective. I highly recommend it. You don't even have to be a Barbara Streisand fan. I became one after, everybody's a little bit of one, but listening to this really helped me to understand how many doors she opened up for women, actors and directors. And then just the process. I had one of my students said that his mother had read the book and loved it and kept sending him quotes and things to say, is this what you do in acting? Is this what Shannon's teaching you? So there's a lot of talking about the process, about not pushing emotion, about getting real and truthful performances, about politics that play a role in being cast and working with co-stars. It's a wonderful book. It's long, but I listened to it because that way you can hear clips of her singing and clips from different shows, and it never felt as long as it was. So great for a road trip though. Highly recommend My Name is Barbara. Ed Zwick, Hits, Flops, and Other Illusions. The title is actually an homage to my grandfather. I heard him talking about that on a couple of podcasts. I'll be doing another episode about podcasts at some point. But wonderful stories about working with actors, about, for instance, one of the stories that I just remember was when he was shooting Glory, and all of the actors, a lot of them, it was their very first movie, their first role ever. And Andre Braugher, who was fresh out of Juilliard, I believe, wasn't hitting any of his marks. And the DP said, Ed, you got to talk to him. He's got to hit his marks. And so he went over and said, we need you to hit your marks. And he said, what are those? That's how fresh and green he was. And then once he understood what he needed to do and the marks that he needed to hit, it happened every time. Again, a lot of wonderful stories about the politics, about actors committing to something and then backing out. And I like that he doesn't pull any punches. He talks about some actors who gave him difficulties. He talks about them with compassion and grace, but not sanitizing everything. So I really enjoyed that book very much, especially for any budding filmmakers as well as actors. And speaking of great stories about lighting, I loved Barry Sonnenfeld. Barry Sonnenfeld's first book, which is Barry Sonnenfeld, Call Your Mother, is on my first recommendation, and he's out with a new book, Best Possible Place, Worst Possible Time, and I loved it. He talks a lot about Men in Black. He talks a lot about just anything that he didn't cover in his first book, and talking about lighting and setting up a shot where two actors are walking, and when they were running it, they were looking at their sides and they were going rather slowly, and then when it came time to shoot it, the actors were walking at a much faster pace, and they weren't ending up where Barry had wanted them to end up. And he tells the director, and he's like, well, I'm not going to mess with their lighting. I don't want to mess with their performance. So let's just let them walk however they want to do it. And he's like, okay. And they tried to light it so the whole thing looked good on the walk. And then he finally was like, well, just so they know, if they end here, and especially for the female in the scene, the lighting is going to be much more flattering if she stops here rather than there. Well, lo and behold, they were able to stop at the mark with the flattering lighting. Everybody wants to look good, right? Especially if it doesn't ruin your performance. So there's wonderful stories like that, stories about different actors' process. Christopher Walken's got a great story in there. Lots of Tommy Lee Jones talks about Will Smith, about what it is to work with him and other actors. Oh, I don't want to spoil anything, but a wonderful story about Kenneth Branagh and a table read that he was doing for Wild Wild West, talking about how wonderful it is when an actor shows up prepared and having done their character work, how fantastic that is. And also sometimes an actor who wants to just discover their character during the table read, how he might have to fight for them because some of the producers of the studio might not understand that the actor is still finding their character and it's not a finished performance. So wonderful, wonderful stories, very humorous. You will laugh quite a bit. I loved it very much. I felt it was a real tragedy, of course, when Matthew Perry passed away. But right before he passed away, he wrote a wonderful book, Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. The Big Terrible Thing, of course, was his drug addiction and his alcohol addiction, which was really a cautionary tale, but so much, approaching it with so much grace. Most of us have known somebody who has battled some types of addiction, and it's really the thing that motivated him to give him purpose, what turned out to be the end of his life. But I think that book will help a lot of people. And if you have no connection to any addiction, the stories about getting cast on Friends, about some of the movies that he did, about some of his girlfriends, and it's just a wonderful story. How he had to fight for Friends, how one of his best friends was originally cast in the role, that they wanted him. So it's, for those actors who are struggling and waiting to make their big break, I thought it was a wonderful book. And also Child of Divorce and how that impacted him as well. So Matthew Perry's book was a gift he gave to us before he passed away. And I mentioned in my last book that I was in the middle of In Pieces by Sally Field, and I loved it. I loved it. All wonderful ways of approaching acting, dealing with having a celebrity who is your spouse or your partner, and jealousy, and all of the processes that people go through when you're acting, casting, and I enjoyed it very much from an amazing actor with an amazing resume. So you don't, by the way, have to always love all of these people or their politics to enjoy the memoir. There's something to be learned from anyone, I believe. So Whoopi Goldberg's book I thought was fantastic, Bits and Pieces. And her struggle and how she came up. I mean, Mike Leigh discovering her and helping her get to Broadway. Broadway actress, amazing. How much Patrick Swayze fought for her to get into Ghost. Some of the process that she went through on Ghost. Wonderful stories. Funny, both she and Barbra Streisand talk a lot about Marlon Brando and their friendship with him and how that impacted them and their parents, interestingly enough. I think their mothers. So yeah, there's a wonderful list. I would love to hear from you. If there's one that I haven't mentioned that's not on this list or that I should check out. Love actor memoirs, love books about acting in Hollywood, and love all of the insight. Let other people make the mistakes and go through the lessons so maybe you can make a few less and it could be a little easier, okay? And like, comment, subscribe, and when you're ready to do what you came here for, check us out, in person or online. Until then, I'll see you next week. What is that?
I don't know.
Is it the auto body?
Cement truck in the middle of the street.
Oh, awesome. It's like a dragon farting.
Oh.
Ba-dum-bump.